splendor of a king, clothed in majesty, and all the earth rejoice, and all the earth rejoice. He wrapped himself in light. Darkness tried to hide, it trembled at his voice, trembled at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Always sing how great. Oh, how great is our God? Sing with me. Oh, how great. Oh, oh, sing. Oh, how great. Oh, we'll sing. Oh, how great is our God. Listen to this. Age to age, he stands. Time is in his hands. Beginning and the end. Beginning and the end. God creates in one. The Father, Spirit, and Son. The Lion and the Lamb. The Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me. Oh, we'll sing. Oh, how great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me. Sing. Oh, how great is our God? Your name above all names. You alone are worthy. And my heart will sing. Oh, how great is our God. So great is our God. Sing with me. The lion and the lamb, the lion and the lamb. How great this another Lord's Day. Thank you that you allowed us to lie down last night and to wake up this morning in our right mind. We thank you. There were many that lied down last night that are no longer here with us. But you've given us yet another day, and we thank you. Pray now that you forgive me of my sin, cleanse me from unrighteousness. Let you stand in and speak through me. The words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. In Jesus' name, amen. 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 Thank you. Amen. Thank you, Lord. Recognize Brother Gibson and then you and all the family. Again today, and in the spirit of the Vacation Bible School theme, we want to read Matthew 28:19 and 20.
All right.
Matthew 28:19 and 20, the Great Commission. Matthew 28:19 and 20. It says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world." Amen. Amen. Talk for a few moments about overcoming obstacles to effective witnessing. Overcoming obstacles to effective witnessing. The Great Commission set forth by Jesus to his disciples serves as what is known as the marching orders of the church.
All right.
It is the desire of Jesus for us to go into all the world so that those who are lost have an opportunity to come to Christ for salvation. Whatever else we do in and for the church is secondary. It is not an optional command. It is not a suggestion. It is what he told us to do.
Right.
He made the command with the expectation that we would follow through. One of the books that we use for our net classes here is titled, "Disciples Are Made, Not Born." The author of the book is Walter Hendrickson, and he makes a profound statement. He says, "Make disciples is a mandate of the Master. We may ignore it, but we cannot evade it." Our risen Christ left this legacy and provided both the model and the method for us to follow.
Yes, sir.
He demonstrated that you've not done anything until you change the lives of men and women. You can change your address. You can change jobs. You can change cars. You can even change your name. But the lives of men and women must be changed, or we've done absolutely nothing. We'll soon be gearing up again with our efforts to train our membership after the summer break in the methods and techniques of how to share your faith. And this training is done through our classes, the net classes. It's a vehicle that we use to equip the students to defend the faith and how to lead one to Christ. There's also training through various Bible classes and Sunday church school and even VBS. And so we cannot approach soul winning or witnessing as a church with a take it or leave it attitude. We cannot sit by and watch people die and go to hell while we shout and talk about how the Lord will deliver you in the time of trouble. And there's something to be said about the insensitivity of a person who's not bothered, who can watch a person who's not saved spend a godless eternity in a burning lake of fire. People are in trouble. And they're searching for all kinds of solutions to the problems of life. And the fact of the matter is, we have the answer to their true dilemma.
Yes.
But we need to prepare ourselves and come and be equipped so that we know what to say and what to do. We need to come and be equipped so that people won't have to die a godless death. Too many of us have treated the command as if it were not necessary. And since we've determined it's not necessary, we continue to live our lives in a state of denial. And so there are several problem areas in witnessing. They range from those who lack the assurance of their salvation to those who fear they'll be rejected, those who fear they don't have adequate training, and those who really just don't care. You'd be surprised at the people who could care less about the lost. There's an old song way back in the day that said, "I got mine." But there's nothing about me helping you get yours. I went to church for a blessing, and I got mine. No concern for the hurting. No concern for the unchurched. And these mindsets fall into what I call deadly obstacles. Now, obstacles are things that block one's way or prevents one from progressing. Things that are made more difficult when obstacles are present. It makes it tough to navigate life. And sometimes obstacles can be the source of frustration even to those of us who are of the household of faith.
Amen.
What are the obstacles that Christians face in our efforts to implement this command? What is it that seems to deflect our efforts to effectively reach those who are lost, both outside and even inside the church?
Sure enough.
Unfortunately, the fact that there are too many to name. And as a result, I will not attempt to give a complete list. But there are a few we want to talk about today and examine with a view of doing everything we can to do our part to overcome these obstacles. So the first one is simply indifference of sinners. There may be someone in this room right now that's indifferent to all that's going on up to this point. The reading of the Word, the praying to God, the songs of praise, and you're just indifferent. An attitude of indifference to the gospel is an obstacle or hindrance to one's potential salvation. Now, not all sinners are indifferent in the same way. Some are indifferent to the existence of God. Some are indifferent to the reality that Jesus is the Son of God. And some are indifferent to the demands that Christianity places upon one's life. While some are indifferent to where they'll spend eternity. They joke about having a blunt and a shot of vodka and Hennessy in hell. But there'll be no blunts or vodka in hell. The only fire going on won't be lighting up a blunt. You won't even think about no blunt in hell. Matter of fact, in some cases, vodka and blunt are what's sending folk to hell. Because they will remain indifferent to the gospel. Some are indifferent to organized, institutionalized religion. And there are many ways that sinners, even some believers, are indifferent to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now understand that indifference is different than an infidel. An infidel is one who says boldly that there is no God. The Bible says that such a person is a fool. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. But the person who is indifferent does not care enough to even oppose God or Christianity. They're just indifferent. They're numb to the reality of the eternal existence of God. And they're numb to the presence of sin in their lives. Satan has anesthetized their heart. And they can't even feel or even be sensitive to the word when it's preached. So we got to be careful how we deal with the person who's indifferent. That's a non-believer. And the reason is because indifference has a way of breeding indifference. It can breed indifference in a sinner. It can also breed indifference in a saint.
Yeah.
It's easy to be indifferent for one who is indifferent toward Christ. It's very difficult to ignore an aggressive enemy because he makes himself known through his aggression. And it's easy to ignore the person who is neither for you or against you. Because they stand where they are, it's easy to be indifferent toward them, so you don't care. And you do that. The word says to pray for your enemies. Pray for those who spitefully use you. Pray for the one who is indifferent. Who prays for the one who refuses to take a stand one way or another? Indifference is a hindrance or obstacle for soul winning. But then there's something else we've got to be careful about, and that is indifference on the part of the sinner has a way of bringing out the worst in us. It has a way of pulling the negative out of us. Have you ever taught and taught and taught? And you tried every kind of method you can to bring a person to Christ who's just determined to go to hell. If you aren't careful, you'll be tempted to get angry at indifference. Because that frustrates us when people reject Christ. We think they're rejecting us. But I'd rather you to be against me than be indifferent towards me. That way I know at least where you stand. It's frustrating to be neither hot or cold. And you do know the Lord spews out of his mouth indifference. And so there's a temptation that after we've been tried over and over and over, trying to reason with somebody, to slip into the flesh. But not only is the obstacle of indifference, but secondly, there's an obstacle of unbelief. It is said about Jesus that when he was in his home country that he did no mighty works because of their unbelief. Fourth chapter of Hebrews, the writer talks about how the word was preached to them, but they did not profit them because it was not mixed with faith or belief in them that heard it. The sin of unbelief is at the root of all unregenerate hearts. And that there are some in which unbelief takes a very strange and pronounced form. They talk religion, but they don't believe the truth of God. They know all the right answers to the questions, but they only have an intellectual grasp to the truth. They don't believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God. And many of them stumble as to who wrote the Bible and where it came from. And a lot of Christians, when they run into people who don't believe, try to win them by arguing with them. But no unbeliever has ever been won to Christ through an argument. You cannot fight Satan's battles. I mean, you cannot fight God's battle with Satan's weapon. He won't allow himself to be glorified through Satan's weapons. You can't use wrong weapons to win the war. The argument that convinces men of the reality of Jesus Christ is gathered when men see the holiness of God expressed in the lives of those who profess to be followers of Christ. In other words, the best argument for Jesus is a life that is consistent with the Word of God. Don't allow yourself to be caught in an argument with an unbeliever. The fool's mind is barricaded against spiritual reasoning. In order for that person to enjoy spiritual things, he or she must believe and be born again. You can't reason on a spiritual level with an unsaved person. You're wasting your time. You see, when I say born again, if you've been saved, you know what I'm talking about. But you don't know what I mean because you intellectually understand all the ramifications of the term born again. You understand it because you've had that experience. You've experienced a change in your own life. And therefore, even strange words like born again make sense to you because you've had an experience. If you haven't had experience, then born again is church talk. Born again is just church jargon. And so unbelief is one of the obstacles that we're going to have to face. But now there's another one, and that obstacle is delay. This one may be a little more subtle and even more dangerous than the other two. Maybe more mischievous than the other two. It seems harmless. So many people in our day, even in Paul's day in Acts, when Paul was talking to Felix, he says, go your way for this time. When I have a more convenient season, I'll call for it. The illusion of delay is that you believe that there'll be a better time. The illusion of delay says that there'll be another time. And delay is one of Satan's masterpieces. It's a masterpiece of deception and suggests you can do it tomorrow. What you really need to do today. It's a masterpiece of deception. And the reason why it's a masterpiece is because when you really sit down and look at life, Satan always says, do it tomorrow. You know you need to be saved, but you can do it tomorrow. You know you need to be a part of church, but you can do it tomorrow. You need to be active in the membership, but you can do it tomorrow. You know you need to be more prayerful and studious, but you can start on that tomorrow. But the reality is tomorrow never comes. There is no tomorrow. The fact of the matter is tomorrow never comes. It's always today. If tomorrow does come, tomorrow is today. You've never seen anybody living in tomorrow. It's always today. Tomorrow never comes. And if it comes, it's today. The Bible says, the day you hear my voice, harden not your hearts. Behold, today, not tomorrow, but today is the day of salvation. Jesus told the thief, today you be with me. He didn't say tomorrow. He said today. And so today, you ought to accept him if you haven't received it. Today is the acceptable time, not tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. So delay is a masterpiece of Satan. Because he's got you thinking that you have time. He's trying to convince you that you have plenty of time to quote unquote get it together. He won't ever tell you don't do it. He'll just keep you thinking that you can put it off until tomorrow. He'll have you thinking you've got to do better and be better and try harder. So there's somebody here today. You're saying in your heart, I've been putting it off too long. I know things aren't right between me and the Lord. But I'll do it next Sunday. I know he's not pleased with the situation I'm in, but I'll do it tomorrow. I need a little more time. I got to go talk to somebody about the situation. I've got some things I've got to deal with that are some logical realities that I've got to put in place, and I'll do that tomorrow. Maybe you're thinking you've got more time because you're young. But whatever age you are, there's somebody that died at that age. Because death is a one-size-fits-all experience. And it comes for both the young and the old. Death is no respecter of persons, and delay will hold you up long enough for death to come and snuff you out. So don't put off for today for tomorrow what you need to do today. Then there's another obstacle, that is carnal security. Some people are just settled enough in knowing that they're saved. Some people think their education has made them saved. And so they're secure in their education. I've got a master's in this, I've got a bachelor's in, I've got a PhD in that. That's not going to save you. There are those who say to themselves that their schooling and training and their exchanges with the great minds in the intellectual arena are all they need. But a man at his best is at his best not when he thinks, but when he prays. The Bible says that there's a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. And then God says that my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. Even as the heavens are higher than above the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Some people think they're safe because there are few folk, I'm not saying all, but a few folk that 45 has deceived into thinking that their lives are better because he's in office.
Come on,
they look at their 401k and have some sense of security, not realizing that most of that 401k took place under the previous president. Our stock market was 6,000 up to 20 before he left. You in better shape with the previous one than the one now. I'm just saying. But we got all these people all worked up. He got to put him in office because of all the jobs he lied and said he created that he didn't create. And so people have security in him. And you already know he's a liar. And the Bible said that Satan is a liar and the father of lies, which means that Satan is his father. China, ready to blow us out of the water. But he got people thinking, I alone can fix it. So did you not know that God can feed you without a job? He can pay your bills without a job. David said, I was young, and now I'm old. I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed bake bread. Now I may have to borrow some bread, but Dennis, I ain't got to beg for it. Folks' hearts. Matter of fact, there's so many people concerned when Donald was out of town. Pastor, are you eating all right? Are you eating? They had all kind of people, especially Pastor and Sister Boo, just bless their heart, was blessing us with smothered pork chops, smothered steaks. I'm like, yeah, I said $1 somewhere else. Pastor Boo was even in on it. He said, yeah, man, I'm eating pretty good too. But he'll touch somebody's heart. He'll open doors, and I don't know how it happened. That's his business. But there's another obstacle, and that's false security. You see, when you're secure, when you aren't secure, until you become insecure, and then there's a negative and positive to insecurity. When I say that you have to be insecure in yourself, I'm talking about not being dependent on your own human resources, but rather declaring dependency on God. Yeah. And as a little note to previous, all it takes is 1 or 2 turns in the stock market, and all of us can be in some sense insecure. Just 1 or 2 little things happen. Somebody threatened to do this or blow this up, and next thing you know, you look on your statement and you owe them money. Y'all missed that. You'll understand. You help me out with this, amen. You'll understand. So you're not secure as long as you walking on the banks of your human resources. You're only secure when you get out into the deep waters of faith. Yes. God is at his best, not on the banks. God's at his best in deep water. Yes, sir. He don't waste his time performing miracles on banks. He performs miracles in deep water. And so people are so caught up in their human networking systems and faulty foundations for life. And when the storms of life comes, they collapse. So the question to you is, what are you building your security on? But then there's another obstacle. We're running through it. There's many, but we're just going to do just a few. And this one's called despair. The person who depends on carnal security has no fear of coming into the presence of God because they think that their earthly resources and security will give them all they need. So they have no fear, but then watch the pendulum swing to the other side. When they're on one side, they depend on that false security thing, all is well, and then the winds of life blow. And everything else turns a new direction. And that same person who once depended on earthly security is now suffering from despair. And they have no hope now. They are despairing. There's someone here right now. You've been hearing the gospel preached. You've been hearing about how Jesus can bring you out, and yet you're living in despair. Because somehow and somewhere along the way you've decided that the power of the gospel cannot be placed upon your life. It's easy to be misled because there's so many religious options for us to choose from. But salvation is through Jesus Christ alone. And he declares that I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. And salvation is a sovereign act of God. And God determined what needed to be done, and he chose to do it. But not only is it a sovereign act of God, at the same time it happens through the free will of man. So man must freely choose what God has done. And so by an act of your will, you must choose what God has done. But then there's another obstacle, and I just want to warn you ahead of time. Buckle up the seat. This one is the love of sin. Because we have a lot of church folk who have a love affair with sin. And so a love sin will be an obstacle in the way of the one who needs, first of all, to be saved. And what happens is that we don't realize our habits and various involvements in many cases include the love of sin. We don't realize that our involvement in fornication is the love of sin. Y'all ain't got quiet? That just starts. Just a brag, I just start. Just a snapshot of a few. Our involvement with adultery. Even members picking up prostitutes who marry is the love of sin. Our involvement in homosexuality is the love of sin. Our involvement in backbiting and sowing discord is the love of sin. It seems like we love sin more than we love God. And we're so in love with sin that the corruption in our lives has gone unarrested and is running rampant in our society. We have refused to break off the love affair that we have with sin, and as a result, we're living frustrated, defeated, and defective lives. We have arrogantly told the Word of God to stay out of our business. You know, the Word of God is quick and powerful and is sharper than a two-edged sword. And we say the word, stay out of my business. You're meddling. The Word of God can meddle and can discriminate successfully. And we don't like it. I'll be saying something sometime and somebody call one, well, Pastor, who told you? Ain't nobody told you. What are you talking about? But the Word of God was messing with that situation. And all they're saying, Pastor, tell the Word of God to stay out of my, I can't do that. It successfully discriminates. It can get in your business and disturb you, and it should. You ought to be afraid when the Word of God affects you in no way at all. That's when you need to be concerned. And for the sinner, the love of sin will keep you from receiving Christ as your Lord and Savior. If you received Him and you love sin, it'll keep you from making a commitment to Him. So you'll live a defeated and carnal life. You won't have the appetite for spiritual things. That you'll walk around in a state of spiritual malnutrition. Because you didn't hunger and thirst after righteousness. So you on a weight loss program, but you're in the wrong weight loss arena. You ought to be losing weight physically, not spiritually. All right. Amen. Looking all shriveled up spiritually because you haven't eaten. Jesus said, blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Then you'll be filled. Amen. So we eating the wrong thing. We still be eating. Tom, still got to eat, but okay, so we got through that bit. All right. So in our flesh, it's easy in our flesh to love sin, but John says, I write this that you sin not. As a child of God, being born again, we don't have to sin. We choose to. And then because, he said, because I know you got a sin nature, if you do, I've given you an advocate. I'm giving you an attorney. I'm giving you a lawyer to plead your case. Who's by your side, who'll stand and represent you in the presence of God. Because you do know the devil is the accuser. And he runs to God and lets him know everything Derek White has done. But Jesus said, I'll die for him. I'm his advocate. And what he's saying is that Christian, you have the potential to sin, but if you sin, when you sin, and a child of God, you ought not wallow in it. You ought to get up. Don't be like the hog. You clean up the hog and you spray some perfume or cologne on the hog, scrub his little hoofs and clean out his snout and wipe him down real good. He's going right back to the hog. You done wasted all that perfume on the hog. Because that's his nature. If you've been born again, the Holy Spirit won't let you have peace while you're in sin. You may sin, but you got to get up. You say, Lord, forgive me and give me another chance. And he promised he'd wash you up. He promised he'd clean you and restore you. Nobody in here can say you never made a mistake, but all of us have sinned and come short of the glory. But all of us have sinned, and none of us is righteous. So God knows I've fallen on my face more than one time. And that's why I don't say I got a second chance, because I lost that a long time. I just get another chance. But since I belong to him, I don't stay and reside receive Christ because they're in the business where they got to tell lies in order to stay in business. And as Christians and people who have integrity, we can't do such things. God will give you what you need. And he'll let you know what to say to a crook that you're saved. And because there's some things I can't do. Yeah, the money looks good, but my soul ain't for sale. Yeah, the lights are bright. Opportunities are endless. But I don't have a price tag on my integrity. My soul means more to me than blood money. I'm not for sale. There are those here today who've never been to the far country. You know what I'm talking about. They're much like the rich young ruler. You've kept all the commandments from your youth up. But you got obstacles too. For many people who've never been to the far country, their obstacle is the obstacle of self-righteousness. Sins of the flesh, and then there are sins of the spirit. You remember the boy in Luke 15? The boy who was lost was in the far country, but the older boy was in the backyard. I kind of lean toward the idea that it's worse to be lost in the backyard. Because when you're lost in the backyard, it's kind of like being lost in church. That's a kind of like a religious but wrong mentality. The story heads to a close with a young boy who was lost going back to his father's house. Father's looking for him. Sees him coming. And he runs, and the father grabs him and hugs him and kisses him. With all of that hog smell on him. Where he'd been to the hog pen. The father didn't even think about the clothes he had on. He just would love the son so much that he returned, and he grabbed him and kissed him and welcomed him home. But the story closes with the elder brother still mad and in the backyard. Now don't let the curtain come down on your life and God put a period by your name and you still in the backyard with your lip open. And when God made me mad, and then give them try to fix up for the funeral home, you at the funeral like this. In the casket, lip out. Well, it would be one thing, it'd be easy to kiss you, the final kiss, but that'd be about it. I'm not done. There's no room in this life for a person full of themselves that think they don't need Christ. There's no room in the life of one who's puffed up by pride. There's no room in the life in the life of Christ like that. There's nothing more deadly and malicious than spiritual pride. Do you know when bad is good, when good is bad? Good is bad when good leaves God out. You can dot every moral I and cross every ethical T. But if you leave God out of your goodness, it's good for nothing. And goodness without God is going to receive the same reward as evil and bad. You got to have more than just goodness. You remember the 10 virgins in the Bible? 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. They were good girls. They were virgins. They never committed fornication. They were good girls. The daddies probably packed some kind of rifle here to let the others know, don't mess with my dog. The daddies probably did like Pastor Anderson did in Kokomo, was on Facebook the other week, and he says that his daughter was going to South Carolina to school. And he let them know where he would have 3 bullets going to a certain anatomy of their body. And he said, I'm just saying, and then Brooke goes on and says, he'll do it too. He'll do it too. So they had a kind of daddy like Pastor Lonnie Anderson. But it wasn't about their goodness. Because 5 of them were foolish. But the other 5 had a little something extra. They had a little extra oil.
That's right, sir.
And oil in many cases in the Bible is symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And when you get a little extra oil, you can love like you should. When you got a little extra oil, you can be a little more patient. When you got a little extra oil, you can be a little more long-suffering. When you got a little extra oil, you can be more gentleman and promote peace. Just a little extra oil. And there's some here today that the reason they can't promote peace and goodwill is because they either don't have no oil or they never had it in the first place. We got to overcome evil companions. Evil companions will corrupt you. You got to be careful. Horatio Palmer says it best. And I remember growing up at the old second. See, a lot of these songs come back to my mind. I used to couldn't tolerate as a child, but they are meaningful now. Horatio says, shun evil companions. Bad language disdain. God's name hold in reverence, nor take it in vain. Be thoughtful and earnest, kind-hearted and true. Look ever to Jesus. He will carry you through. Then said, I ask the Savior, Tommy, to help you, comfort, strengthen, and keep you. He's willing to aid you. He will carry you through. Many Christians run with people who are weak. And while you can encourage a weak brother or sister, weak people ought not be your only friend. You ought to have somebody that's behind you. Somebody that's beside you, and somebody that you're growing with. Then you ought to have somebody ahead of you to encourage you to come along. Then you ought to have somebody you can talk with, who can help you pray and help you through temptation. When you cut everybody off, Satan isolates you to try to wear you out. He loves sheep that have gotten away from the flock by themselves because he knows they're defenseless. But then conversely, sometimes you got to stand alone. Jesus moved history forward by standing alone. He went to the kangaroo courts alone. He was scourged alone. He went to the cross alone. Yeah, there were two thieves, but he was alone. There were soldiers around the cross. His mother watched in despair, but he was alone. There were others that looked on, but he was alone. He took the sin of man, and alone the wrath of God was poured on him. And Isaiah said that it pleased the Father to bruise him and put him to grief. And he was alone. And he died all by himself. He was in the tomb alone. He stayed there all night, Friday night. All day Saturday and all night Saturday night alone. But early Sunday morning he got up alone. Not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, but he alone can save us. But now we got to be fair to Jesus and ask ourselves, must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross for me. He saved us that we might tell others that he can save them too. Thank God for the Son of God who became a man to enable men to become sons of God. Stories told of a little boy who was lost, couldn't find his way home, so he began to cry because he was lost and felt hopeless. A stranger saw the little boy crying, went up to him and asked him, said, young man, what's wrong? What's going on? Little boy said with tears in his eyes, I can't find my way home. I'm lost. Wanting to help, the man asked, is there anything near your house you can remember? The boy thought for a moment and then said, there's one thing I can remember. There's a building near my house with a cross on it. Oh, Lord have mercy. The man knew exactly which cross the boy was talking about, so he took the boy by the hand and walked him to the church, the building where the cross was. When the boy saw the cross, he knew exactly how to find his home. Hallelujah. When he found the cross, he found home. When he got home, his father was able to reach out to him and receive him. And perhaps there's somebody here today who's trying to find their way home. The Father is waiting on you. You're lost in despair. You feel hopeless. You feel like you can't find your way. The Father is waiting on you with arms open wide. That's why the hymnologist says it was at the cross, where I first saw the light. And the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight. And now I'm happy all the day. It was at the cross where Jesus died for my sins, rose for my salvation. It was at the cross. If you're here today and you're trying to find your way home, come on by the house with the cross. There's healing in the cross. There's wholeness in the cross. There's help in the cross. There's salvation in the cross. There's stability in the cross. sinners can pray to you for salvation. Let's pray that whatever obstacles they may have in their lives, that they recognize that the sin of indifference, and the sin of unbelief, and the sin of evil companions, the sin of the love of sin, cause them to spend eternity away from you. But if they just surrender their life to you and allow you to come into their heart, they can have eternal life. And we just thank you for that. Now may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, sweet communion of the Holy Spirit rest, rule, and abide with us now and forever. Shall we all say together?
Amen.
Amen.